There is a number that should be making headlines every single day in America. Not the stock market, not inflation, not the national debt. The number is zero. And it represents the retirement savings of millions of ordinary Americans who are getting closer to the end of their working years with absolutely nothing set aside. This is not a story about lazy people who did not try hard enough. This is a story about a system that has failed tens of millions of working Americans, and what you can do right now to make sure you are not one of them. Number 1, why most Americans have zero saved. Let us start with the data because the numbers are genuinely alarming. A February 2026 report from the National Institute on Retirement Security found that the typical working American has less than $1,000 saved for retirement. The median amount saved across all workers between ages 21 and 64, including those with no savings at all, is just $955. Think about what that number actually means. That is less than most Americans spend on groceries in a month. That is less than one car payment on most vehicles. And for millions of Americans, that is the entire financial foundation they are building their retirement on. It gets worse when you look at people who are actually approaching retirement age. Among Americans aged 55 to 64, the people who should be in the final stretch of building their retirement nest egg, the median amount saved is only $30,000. Retirees themselves say you need an average of $823,800 to retire comfortably in 2026. The typical American has less than 4% of that amount saved when they stop working. So why is this happening? There are 3 reasons that drive the majority of the crisis. First, access. An astonishing 42% of full-time working Americans have no access to any employer-sponsored retirement plan whatsoever. No 401k. No pension. Nothing offered through their job. Second, cost of living. More than half of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck in 2026. When your income barely covers rent, groceries, childcare, and transportation, there is simply nothing left over to put aside for a future that feels abstract and distant. Third, awareness. Americans answered only 48% of basic financial literacy questions correctly in recent surveys. When you do not understand how compound interest works or why starting early matters so dramatically, you are unlikely to prioritize retirement savings over expenses that feel more immediate and urgent. Number 2, how Social Security alone is not enough. Here is where things get particularly dangerous for the millions of Americans heading into retirement with little to nothing saved. Most of them are counting on Social Security to carry them through. And Social Security will help, but it will not be enough. The average Social Security monthly check for retired workers in February 2026 was $2,076. That is $24,912 per year. On that income alone, in most American cities, you cannot afford rent. You cannot afford healthcare out of pocket. You cannot afford the basic lifestyle most Americans expect to maintain in retirement. Social Security was specifically designed to replace around 40% of your pre-retirement income, not all of it. The Social Security Administration itself states clearly that Social Security is not meant to be your only source of income in retirement. It was designed as a foundation, not a full structure. But for tens of millions of Americans with zero savings, it has become the entire plan. And the foundation is cracking. The Social Security Trust Fund for Retirement and Survivor Benefits is projected to run short in the 4th quarter of 2032. That is less than 7 years away. If nothing changes before then, benefits could be cut by up to 20% across the board. For someone already living on a $2,076 monthly check, that kind of cut would be catastrophic. The picture is stark but simple. Social Security provides a floor. If you have no savings, you have no walls and no roof. And a floor alone is not a house you can live in. Number 3, the cost of waiting in real numbers. The most expensive decision most Americans make about retirement is not a bad investment. It is simply waiting too long to start. And the math on this is brutal. If you are 25 years old today and you invest $200 per month into a Roth IRA, earning an average 8% annual return, you will have approximately $702,000 by age 65. That is nearly $750,000 from $200 a month. If you wait until you are 35 to start the exact same $200 per month investment at the same return rate, you will end up with approximately $298,000 by age 65. You contributed for 30 years instead of 40, but your ending balance is less than half. The 10 years you waited cost you over $400,000. If you wait until 45, you end up with approximately $117,000. Same $200 per month. Same return rate, but starting 20 years later costs you $585,000 compared to starting at 25. Every single year of delay does not just cost you 1 year of contributions. It costs you the compounding growth on every dollar you would have invested during that year and all the years that followed it. Time is the entire engine. And here's what makes this particularly painful. Among Americans who have already stopped contributing or reduced their contributions, which 51% of Americans did in the past 6 months, according to Allianz Life, every month of reduced savings is a month of compounding that can never be recovered. Number 4, how much you actually need to retire. Before you can fix the problem, you need to understand the target, and the target has moved significantly. In 2025, retirees said the average person needed $580,310 to retire comfortably. In 2026, that number jumped to $823,800, an increase of nearly $250,000 in a single year, driven largely by inflation and rising healthcare costs. But that is the average opinion. Financial planners use a more structured approach called the 4% rule, which says you can safely withdraw 4% of your retirement portfolio each year without running out of money over a 30-year retirement. Here's what that looks like in practical terms. To generate $2,000 per month in retirement income from your savings, you need $600,000 saved. To generate $3,000 per month, you need $900,000. To generate $4,000 per month, which combined with an average Social Security check, gets you close to a comfortable middle-class retirement, you need approximately $1.2 million. Those numbers might feel overwhelming right now. But the point of knowing them is not to discourage you. It is to give you a real target to work toward instead of hoping everything works out. Number 5, what to do if you are starting from zero. If you are reading this and you have nothing saved, here is the most important thing you can hear. It is not too late, but it does require starting right now. The very first step is opening a retirement account. If your employer offers a 401k, contribute at minimum enough to capture the full employer match. That is a guaranteed return on your money before a single investment gain is made. If your employer does not offer a 401k or you are self-employed, open a Roth IRA. You can open one in about 15 minutes through Fidelity, Vanguard, or Charles Schwab with as little as $1. The second step is automating your contributions. Set up an automatic transfer on payday so the money goes into your retirement account before you have the chance to spend it. Start with whatever you can afford, even $50 per month. Then increase it by 1% every time you get a raise. You will never feel the difference in your paycheck, but over a decade, it creates an enormously different retirement outcome. The third step is investing your contributions. A retirement account with money sitting in cash is not growing. Put your contributions into a low-cost index fund that tracks the total stock market or the S&P 500. Set it and forget it. Let compound growth do the work that time is still available to do. The fourth step is cutting one expense and redirecting it. Find one thing you are spending money on right now that you genuinely could live without. A subscription you forgot about. Dining out twice a week instead of 4 times. A habit that costs you $100 per month that is not improving your life. Redirect that $100 into your retirement account. That one change alone, started at age 35, could be worth over $150,000 by the time you retire. The retirement crisis in America is real. The $0 savings number is real, but so is the power of starting today with whatever you have. The biggest mistake is not starting small. The biggest mistake is not starting at all. If this video helped you understand what is at stake for your retirement, hit that like button. It helps Kraftwise reach more everyday Americans who deserve this information before it is too late. Subscribe for a new financial education video every single week and start building the retirement you deserve.